Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Advanced Topics in Ethnography. Here we are into session 11 already, hard to believe. Sorry we weren't able to catch up on this Saturday. It sounds like we had some conflicts, but we can certainly try and do that again if necessary. So this week is really focusing on projective techniques. Now, as you know, the last couple of weeks, we've been looking at different ways to analyze narrative, different types of analytical techniques, also different ways in which you might utilize techniques in gathering data. And projective techniques in ethnography are really important. And this is partially because the depth and the thickness or the deepness of the responses that come from participants very much have to do more about how we ask questions and what techniques we utilize to get to what we want to know. I provided you with a short video from another person explaining how they use projective techniques. But basically, what we want to be able to do, and I've been saying this all along, is have like a toolkit which you are prepared to utilize. Um, um, Sometimes planned, sometimes on the fly, when you're working with participants where you want to really get deeper into the story. So data is not helpful if it's very binary. Like, so if you ask someone a question, are you satisfied with the care that you are receiving from your care team? That's probably going to get a yes or no response. That's not very helpful if what you really want to understand is what it is that they find important being within the relationship of their care team and say their diagnosis, whatever that may be. See, that is really what you might want to get to if that's what if your study is about. So is your care good or not? That's going to be yes or no. But we can also ask that same question in a different way. Can you describe to me how you feel your interactions with your care team are helping you cope with your diagnosis? That question can't be answered yes or no. That requires, opening up and starting to say, well, I meet with my care team, once a month. I'm able to provide feedback to them about how I think things are going, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's more of a story than yes or no. Things are going fine, yes or no. So as ethnographers, what we're always trying to do is ensure that we're getting as deeply as possible into the story that we are trying to tell about the health phenomenon. Now, the chapter provides you with a number of techniques. Again, what I like about this book is that the chapters are relatively short, but they're jam-packed of information. And here's where, as we move forward into the end of the semester, where you're going to be putting together your toolbox, is where you really want to start to think about how you're going to utilize the techniques we've been talking about over the past 4 or 5 weeks. If you noticed within the larger ethnography that you have been reading, if those sorts of techniques might have been used, I know it's hard to know if they've been used or not. So I also want to go and look forward to where we're heading with all of this in your assignments for the end of the semester. So as we get into the end of the semester, session 13, for instance, this is going to be your 4th assignment for the course. And basically, you're going to be writing a 5 to 7 page paper. The paper is going to give a brief yet pretty detailed overview of the context in which you are working in. Um, I want to see how you're considering ethical considerations in light of that context. So it's just not ethical considerations, um, uh, standard ones, but say, for instance, you're in a position where you would be doing research to understand how students at the university are understanding their own health needs or something like that. Think about what the ethical concerns would be specifically in that context, which may be different than a different sort of clinical context or different type of health phenomenon. Okay. Um, I want to see you create a series of 4 to 5 interview questions that you might utilize in data collection and explain why you choose them. Now, when I say interview questions, it's not just blanket questions you're going to ask. What type of questions are they going to be? Are they going to be projective? Are they going to be semi-structured? Are they going to be whatever you have yielded from the techniques that we've been reviewing? Are you going to ask questions that promote collaging, for instance, which is another way of organizing your data? So I'm going to be looking for how specifically you associate the choices you're making for this research proposal, quote unquote, based on what the textbook has been describing to us regarding the different techniques in your toolbox, or sorry, your toolkit here. Devise a plan of analysis using one or more techniques that have been described in the textbook. They could be narrative, they could be other types, et cetera. They could be based on observation. And then lastly, imagine what the major themes of this research might be. Now, I know you're projecting because you're not actually doing it, but imagine what the themes might be and pair different ethnographic techniques you might use to appropriately unpack the story associated with the theme. If you remember last week, I talked about how we make this transition from collecting data to telling the story. And it is a transition. We have to sort of figure out, okay, I've been listening, I've been watching, I've been learning from the phenomena that I've chosen to research. How do I shift that into a story that's going to be told? Also, I do expect that you're using the American Psychological Association 7th edition style sheet for your writing style and also your citations and references. And you should be citing the works that you might be drawing from, even if they're from our textbook, because the chapters are written by different authors. And then lastly, as we go into session 14, your final assignment is going to be to produce a slide presentation that provides the following. This is based on your large ethnography, whichever one you read, Lisa, or the one about Walter Reed, or the one about residents in the COVID era. You're going to give a general overview of the ethnography you've been reading this semester. Identify the main themes present in that study. And you're going to have to, be conscious that it can't be every theme, but the main themes that go into that. And then in table 35.1 in the textbook, I think is a good example. Just closed my book. It is a good example of how you might organize the overview of the themes and examples from the ethnography using 4 categories. So these would be the elements, representative quotes, research-based information sources, etc. And then lastly, I want your own critique of the ethnography based on its merit as a story. So this is not where you get to say that you liked it or you didn't like it. What I want is a critique in your thoughts about what made the ethnography a suitable method to explain a phenomenon that the ethnographer has chosen to study. What were the shortcomings that might have been noticed in the presentation of the story? So I look at reading an ethnography just like reading a novel. And, I finish it, I put it down, and I ask myself, I really would have liked, to have had a certain character's uh, uh, a certain player in the book, their character built out a little further. Like I really think that would have helped the story, or I think it would have helped the story if it was organized in a different way, or maybe if there was a sort of a sense of suspense or something put into it. And this is your opportunity to just really critique the book based on how you felt it stood as a product of research that tells a story about a health phenomenon. And then lastly, what might you have done differently? Here's your opportunity to critique and say, I think I would have presented this differently, or I think I would have gathered data a little differently, etc. This is a VoiceThread assignment. So you can plug into VoiceThread. We'll be looking for slides and also your voiceover, etc. And this is where we're going in the last two sessions. So let me just click back again. We are here at Projective Techniques. After session 11, you will have the opportunity to finish reading, possibly, your large ethnography and start preparing for the final assignments. Okay. If you have any questions, any needs, feel free to ask questions using the Ask the Prof um, uh, discussion board, or if it's something of a more personal nature, please feel free to email me directly. Okay. Again, I'm really looking forward to seeing your work, and I hope everyone has a really great week. Thank you. Bye-bye.